Let me tell you something that weak people will never understand. Failure isn't the end. It's the ing beginning. When you fall flat on your face, when everything goes wrong, when people laugh, doubt you, mock you, that's the moment the real ones get born. Not when it's easy, not when you're winning. Most of you are terrified of failure. You avoid it like it's poison, but what you don't get is, failure is fuel. It's the spark. It's the pressure that turns soft little boys into ing warriors. Every L you take is either a load you carry on your back forever, or a fire you throw into the engine. But here's the part you don't want to hear. That only works if you're man enough to use it. If you can stare at the mirror and say, I deserved that, now I'm gonna do something about it. That's where the game changes. That's when you stop being a spectator and start being a force. So ask yourself, when life punches you in the face, do you cry or do you reload? Listen up, because here's the truth no one tells you. Failure is not some distant possibility that you can tiptoe around. It's the most guaranteed part of your life. From the moment you take your first breath, you're signing up for a lifetime of stumbles, mistakes, and brutal faceplants. You think you can avoid it by playing it safe, by never stepping outside your comfort zone, by surrounding yourself with men who pat you on the back and tell you how great you are. Newsflash, that just delays the inevitable. Sooner or later, life will hit you with something you didn't see coming. A deal falls through, a relationship implodes, your body betrays you, or your plans disintegrate in a single instant of chaos. No matter how hard you work, how cautiously you tread, failure will find you. And here's the part most people refuse to accept. When it does, most of them crumble. They shrink back, they shrink in, they let that single moment define their entire existence. They start believing the lies that echo in their minds. I'm not good enough. This proves I was foolish to try. I might as well give up now. They freeze in that moment of pain, starving themselves of any chance to grow or fight back. They become prisoners of their own fear, spinning their wheels in self-pity while the world marches on without them. But take a look around. The people you admire, the ones who make history, the legends, they didn't dodge failure. They swallowed it, digested it, and used it to carve out their path. For every triumphant story you see, there's 100 unglamorous failures that came before it. They were derided, dismissed, written off. They were told to quit, to play small, to accept defeat. And what did they do? They shook off the dirt, they got back to work, and they turned every setback into a stepping stone. You want proof? Look at the countless entrepreneurs who went bust before hitting it big, the athletes crushed by injuries only to come back stronger, the inventors whose labs exploded before their breakthroughs lit up the world. They weren't born immune to failure. They became immune because they refused to bow down to it. They treated every mistake as an experiment, every defeat as data, every humiliation as a lesson. And with each lesson, they built a little more resilience, a little more grit, a little more of that unbreakable core that no setback can touch. Here's the part where you decide what you're made of. You can choose to see failure as the end, proof that you lack talent, proof that you're too weak, proof that you don't deserve better, or you can see it for what it really is, an invitation. Failure says, come on, bring your best next time. It dares you to level up, to sharpen your skills, to reinvent your strategy. It whispers, you've got more inside you. Let's find out just how far you can go. Too many people are terrified of that invitation. They cling to safety, they tiptoe around risk, they let fear dictate every move. They never feel the rush of facing down impossibility, never taste the adrenaline surge that comes with staring failure in the eye and refusing to blink. They waste years playing small while the world belongs to those bold enough to stumble spectacularly and still keep charging forward. So when the next failure lands in your lap, don't flinch. Don't beg for mercy. Don't let it twist you into someone you're not. Stand tall, feel the burn of humiliation, the sting of self-doubt, the roar of the crowd telling you to fold. Then take a deep breath, square your shoulders, and make a choice. You can let that failure write your story, or you can write your own damned narrative. One where every setback is the fuel that propels you towards something greater. Imagine standing in the wreckage of your life, surrounded by the echoes of every door slammed in your face, every promise broken, every scar etched into your spirit. Now feel the power that courses through you, the fierce clarity that comes when you realize none of it can hurt you unless you let it. Because failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the raw material it's built on. And unless you're willing to gather up every broken piece and use it to ignite a fire inside you, you'll never understand just how unstoppable you can become. Listen up, because here's the raw truth. Weak men run from failure. They circle their wagons, hide behind excuses, and pretend nothing bad will ever happen. They dodge risk like it's a loaded gun pointed at their heads, opting instead for safety blankets and average lives. They cling to routines, stay in jobs they hate, and surround themselves with people who won't challenge them. They do everything they can to avoid the sting of defeat, because the moment failure knocks on their door, they crumble. Their confidence evaporates, their dreams shrink, and they become spectators in the game of life, forever watching others score while they sit on the sidelines. Now look at strong men. They don't just tolerate failure, they celebrate it. They lean into it, embrace it, even provoke it when they have to. Why? Because they know failure is a banquet of lessons, and they're starving for growth. Every time they face a setback, they glean another insight, pick up another skill, build another muscle in their willpower gym. They understand that greatness isn't handed out at birth. It's forged through repeated trials by fire. So they seek out challenges that terrify the weak, simply because that's where the fiercest learning happens. Weak men fear failure because they think it defines them. Strong men feed on it because they know it refines them. Ask yourself, when was the last time you pushed yourself to the brink? When did you feel your heart pound in your chest, your palms sweat, and your mind race with every possible way you could fail? If the answer is I can't remember, you're in the danger zone. You've been playing small, hiding from the chaos that breeds victory. Strong men crave that chaos. They set audacious goals not because they expect to master them on the first try, but because they relish the grind, the uncertainties, the possibility of humiliation. They know that the moment they step into the arena with every eye on them is the moment they'll discover what they're truly made of. Weak men will tell you be realistic. Strong men laugh in their faces. Realism sounds like a polite term for mediocrity. It's the language of people who have already given up. Strong men speak the language of boldness. I'm going to do it, and I'll figure out how on the way. They swallow fear whole and let it fuel them. They channel the doubt of naysayers into nitroglycerin for their ambitions. Every sneer, every critic, every door slammed in their face becomes another brick in the foundation of their empire. There's a reason the world's top performers, in business, sports, art, war, all share one trait. They actively court failure. They treat it like their wingman, whispering, "Go ahead, hit me. I'll be stronger on the other side." They break records not because they never fell, but because they refuse to stay down. Meanwhile, weak men stand at the starting line, counting the cost, fearful of losing before they even begin. They choose the path of least resistance, but fast. Forward 5 years, and their lives look exactly the same. Only older, only more regretful. Here's the burning question. Do you want to be one of those men? The ones who wake up every morning with a gnawing sense of what if, trapped in endless loops of maybe one day? Or do you want to be the man who wakes up excited, adrenaline coursing through his veins, because he knows today is another chance to bleed, to sweat, to fight, and to feed on failure? Strong men understand. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of it. It's staring at a possible disaster and deciding it's the only way to reach the summit. Look at your life. Everywhere you see a white flag, a surrendered dream, a comfort zone barricade. That's where you withheld your power. You were plagued by what if I fail? What if I told you that question is the loudest proof that you're alive, that you still have something worth risking? Strong men don't ask what if I fail. They ask what if I succeed? They frame failure not as an end, but as a question. What if this setback contains the very blueprint of my next victory? So stop whining about potential shame, potential embarrassment, potential loss. Those are just stories you tell yourself to feel safe. True strength is born in the furnace of risk. Test your mettle by chasing goals so wild they make your heart pound. Take on challenges so daunting they send chills down your spine. Because every time you do, you're proving something irrefutable. You aren't weak. You aren't fragile. You're a force of nature, and the failures you rack up along the way, they're the feast that fuels you, the artillery you'll unleash on the world when you finally decide to conquer. Listen, pain is the signal you've been waiting for. It's not some unfortunate byproduct of life. It's the raw material of transformation. When your bones ache from another sleepless night, when your muscles scream under the weight of your ambitions, when your chest tightens with anxiety and doubt, that's the alarm bell. It's telling you something critical. You're on the edge, you're alive, and you're exactly where you need to be if you want to level up. Ignore it, and you'll never know what you're capable of. Bend to it, and you'll never rise above it. Pain doesn't negotiate, it demands a response. It either breaks you or builds you into someone bulletproof. Feel that burn in your lungs as you sprint harder than you ever thought possible. That's not punishment, it's permission to evolve. Each drop of sweat is a data point, a message carved into your flesh. You're progressing. Every twinge of soreness is another layer added to your armor. But here's the catch: if you let that signal scare you, if you back off when the discomfort peaks, you're telling yourself you value comfort over conquest. You're admitting that your dreams aren't worth the cost. That sprint becomes a stroll, that effort inches back to ease, and the next signal, it fades into white noise, barely registering until you realize you've stalled in mediocrity. Most people recoil the moment pain shows its face. They panic, they freeze, they dial back their goals to fit the boundaries of their comfort. They starve themselves of growth in the name of safety, believing the world owes them an easy ride. But here's what strong men know: pain is directional. It points you toward growth. It highlights where your weaknesses lie, and it hands you the blueprint to eradicate them. When you choose to lean into that burn, to invite the stinging ache, you're stepping into the laboratory of greatness. You're saying to the universe, show me where I'm soft so I can get hard. It doesn't only apply to the gym, when a deal collapses, when a relationship fractures, when humiliation floods in. You feel pain. Most backpedal to numb it, to pretend it never happened. They swirl in denial and distraction until the signal is buried under Netflix or cheap thrills. But if you allow that same message to resonate, to hammer at your mind like a relentless forge'll extract its lesson. You'll dissect the failure, analyze the missteps, and rebuild yourself stronger. Every rejection, every loss, every crumb of ego shattered becomes the mortar in the fortress you're erecting around your ambition. I remember the first time I was shoved to the ground by life's iron fist. I tasted defeat so sharp it felt like glass in my throat. My instinct screamed to retreat, to hide, to nurse my wounds until the pain dulled. Instead, I pressed forward into the storm. I asked myself the brutal questions. What did I miss? Where did I lie to myself? How do I armor up so this never shreds me again? I studied, I trained, I adapted. And every ounce of discomfort I endured after that was just the battlefield where I honed my resilience. That pain signaled a breakthrough, not a breakdown. Now, when the signal blares, when your body, your mind, your circumstances crash into you like a freight train, you get to choose. You can let it vaporize your spirit, leave you bruised and begging for mercy, or you can channel it into fuel so potent it obliterates every obstacle in your path. The difference isn't some genetic gift, it's a decision. Every time you decide to stare pain in the eye, to let it pulse through your veins and call it victory, you rebuild yourself from the inside out. You become a creature of chaos refined by fire. So next time you feel that signal, that brutal, unfiltered message, don't back away. Don't soothe it with excuses or shortcuts. Stand into it, breathe it in, and let it hammer you into something fiercer. Because pain is the signal that your metamorphosis is underway, and only those with the guts to answer its call will emerge unbreakable. You've been told your whole life to play it safe. Your parents told you to pick a stable career. Your teachers told you to memorize the right answers. And society told you that failure is shameful, a stain on your record that you must scrub away before anyone will respect you. So you obey. You tiptoe around risks. You wrap yourself in bubble wrap made of mediocrity, and you wait for permission to live. But here's the brutal truth. There is no world on the other side of safety. You will never find greatness by tiptoeing. You will only find regret, boredom, and the slow death of your potential. Society markets safety as the highest good, but that's a lie writ large. They want you to stay small, stay quiet, stay compliant. In their vision, you'll never challenge the status quo, you'll never question the rules, and you'll certainly never become powerful enough to rewrite them. Think about it. Every iconic breakthrough in history was born from a failure that society told its creator to avoid. Edison's lab burned down, but he laughed because he was too busy inventing the light bulb to worry about ashes. Every entrepreneur who built an empire first went bust. Every warrior who penned their legend first tasted blood. They didn't march down a street paved with safety nets. They stormed through glass doors, jumped into abysses, and came out the other side forged in flame. Avoiding failure is like refusing to light the pilot on your stove because you're afraid of flames. You'll never get a meal out of that stove. You'll starve on handouts and become dependent on scraps handed out by those too timid to cook their own feast. When you collide with failure, your world screams for you to retract. Society shouts, back off. It sends in the naysayers, the comfort, peddlers, the ones who never dared to step outside a circle they drew themselves. They'll offer you 9 reasons to quit, 9 ways you're unqualified, 9 guarantees that you'll disappoint them. But real fire doesn't ask for permission. It demands you step into its heat. It's there, in that raw, blistering heat, that your doubts burn away, your excuses evaporate. The lies you've told yourself about your limits turn to smoke. Only someone who's been in that fire and felt it carve them into something new knows the power it holds. That's where true strength is born. You feel it the first time you try something that scares you, a business pitch that could humiliate you, a relationship that risks rejection, a training session that will break your body. The moment you fail, society's voice inside you screams to rewind, to cover your scars, to settle back into comfort. But the real you, the you who actually matters, leans in. You say, show me more. You record the humiliation, you dissect every misstep, and you use it to calibrate your next move. You feed that failure into the furnace of your ambition. That's where the fire is. That's where dreams go to be reborn as reality. So stop listening to the chorus of safe voices that promise you'll live longer if you play smaller. That's the orphan's lullaby. The parent of greatness says something different. I'm going to get burned, and I'm going to love every blister. That's the code of the warrior, the entrepreneur, the artist, the athlete. Anyone who decided that the only thing worth living for is a life that tests their limits. When you reject society's fear, driven handcuffs, when you decide that the fire of failure is your crucible, only then do you break free of your shell and become the force you were born to be. Because every ember of doubt is just the beginning of a blaze so bright it lights up your destiny. Your reaction to failure is the crossroads where your life splits in two. Either you step into the shoes of a victim who lets defeat define him, or you strap on the armor of a conqueror who uses every setback as ammunition for the next victory. When the world strikes you down, most people have only one instinct: to curl up, lick their wounds, and whisper, "Why me?" Over and over until the question becomes their identity. They hang on to the hurt like a security blanket, as if the pain somehow validates their existence. They replay the moment of collapse in endless loops, each rewind deepening the wound, each replay convincing them they're powerless. And once you believe you're powerless, you are. But there's another path. One that only the fiercest among us choose. When you crash and burn, the conqueror in you doesn't whisper, "Why me?" He snarls, "What now?" He feels the sting, tastes the salt of disappointment, and then immediately channels that energy into the toughest question of all: how do I fight back? He understands there's no virtue in wallowing. Wallowing is the indulgence of the weak, a pastime that breeds only more weakness. He's not above pain. He's beyond it. He sees failure as a signal flare that lights up the targets on his back, inviting him to sharpen his aim and charge straight through the barrage. Think about the last time you struck out, whether in business, love, or personal ambition. Did you retreat into safe routines, convincing yourself that the world is rigged, that you're cursed, that the universe somehow forgot to include you? Or did you survey the wreckage, map out every shard of what went wrong, and decide on one irrevocable truth? You will not suffer the same fate twice. The reaction is everything. Victims build monuments to their failures. Conquerors tear those monuments down and erect catapults in their place. Victims become experts in excuses. They study the art of blame like it's a trade school, perfecting their craft until it becomes second nature. If only the market hadn't crashed. If only she hadn't left. If only I had started sooner. Their vocabulary is a graveyard of if-onlys, each one a tombstone marking an opportunity surrendered. And as the body count of unfulfilled dreams piles up, they grow more comfortable in defeat than they ever were in victory. They become romantics of pain, infatuated with the past, stalling their future. Conquerors speak a different language. Their dialect is verbs: act, adapt, advance. They thank failure for the lesson and pocket the wisdom. They don't waste time mourning what could have been. They engineer what will be. That doesn't mean they shed emotion, but they refuse to let emotion become a prison. The conqueror knows you're not a machine. You'll feel anger, frustration, even a moment of despair. But you extract those emotions, forge them into fuel, and steer them into your next move. Your reaction isn't some abstract moral test. It's your operational directive. In the heat of battle, when your heart is pounding, your vision narrowed, you'll have exactly one window to choose: retreat or surge. Retreat means you concede the field, hand the story of your life to others, and become an afterthought. Surge means you carve your name into the hearts of everyone watching. Surge means you look into the barrel of your own doubt and pull the trigger on your potential. Surge means you own the failure and make it propellant. Every champion has a different narrative, but all share a critical chapter: the moment they refused to be victims. They could have let a single defeat derail them forever, but instead they stood up, bloodied and broken maybe, but alive with purpose. They understood failure is not final, it's feedback, and feedback demands a response. You can either treat it like a verdict or like a challenge. Cross that threshold and you become something else entirely. The victim's life is defined by boundaries. I can't, I won't, I'm not able. Those sentences are shackles, forged in the foundry of fear. The conqueror's world is borderless. I will, I must, I can. Those declarations are wings, lifting you above every obstacle. They change nothing about the circumstances, but everything about your capacity to overcome. The fight hasn't changed, only your stance has. So the next time you face a crushing defeat, watch your first impulse. Does it whisper, "I can't," or roar, "Watch me"? That split second decision is your testament. It broadcasts to the universe who you are, victim or conqueror. And once you choose, you can't unchoose, because every action that follows only cements the path you've staked. So stand firm, lean into the blow, and react not like someone mapping his prison, but like someone charting his conquest.